When buying and selling are controlled by legislation, the first things to be bought and sold are legislators. PJ O'Rourke, PJ O'Rourke, American satirist and journalist. All right. Welcome to another morning episode of the Liberty Dad podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. I am back for the new year. So I took a little downtime. If you're tuning in, right now, if you're tuning in live, I want to especially thank you for tuning in so early. I realize 7 a.m. is not for everyone. And I'll have to point out running a little late today. My own fault. That's it. There's not much of a story there. But at any rate, I will do my best, folks, to make sure that we are punctual 7 a.m. Monday through Friday, every Monday through Friday. Punctuality matters. And so, kind of give me a swift kick in the rear if you need to. Leave a comment in there and say, hey, what are you doing, man? I was up. You made me wait 15 minutes. But anyway, I'm back. I had a great holiday downtime, and I actually kicked it off last night with my episode of LP Happenings. So if you missed that, go ahead and check that out if you're interested in what's going on in the Libertarian Party. But this show, this one, Monday through Friday, I talk about politics and culture. And today, the title of the show is Read the Bills. And it kind of comes from, well, for me, reading the bills is kind of something that I've been doing for quite a while now. So this is not really a new thing for me, but I thought it would be an interesting reminder to people that we should always read the bills. So I want to pull something up here, and it might take me a second because again, I was a little bit, I was a little bit behind this morning, and that's okay. So let me see if I can't get this back up here. This what do I want to see here? I think I can get it right. There we go. All right. So let's see. My head is always in the way. You won't see it just yet. I'm working on getting it there. So how about we do this? There, I think that works. All right. There we go. All right, so this comes from in my again, I apologize for my head being in the way, but I want to make this legible for you, for those that are watching. But this comes from Thomas Massie. He tweeted this out January 6th. He said, read the bills. So I kind of stole my intro this morning from his comment here. He said, did you know all but 21 US representatives voted for a bill written by Nancy Pelosi that called the January 6th protesters, quote, insurrectionist, end quote. He said, I voted no and took a lot of heat for it. Here's a link to the bill that became law in 2021. And then he provides a link and he also provides a few screenshots. So how about I see if I can't get these screenshots up here for you. So let's try to do that. So let's switch over to this screen here. Bam. Here we go. We're getting things moving along this morning. And how does that look? I think that works. Let me see. Yeah, that works perfect. All right. So he has a link to an article, or he shows an article 21 Republicans vote against awarding medals to police who defend Capitol. So that's how this bill was described by thehill.com. Goes in there and it has, it has some of what he said in here. Go here. Here we are. So here is a screenshot of the law that he voted against. And it starts out, it says Section 1 findings. Congress finds the following. Number one, every day, the United States Capitol Police protects the U.S. Capitol. Probably no argument there. Members of Congress, congressional staff and institutional staff, journalists, and the visiting public. Again, probably nobody's going to argue with that. So pretty good there. But then here's where he's got it highlighted. On January 6th, 2021, a mob of insurrectionists forced its way into the U.S. Capitol building and congressional office buildings and engaged in acts of vandalism, looting, and violently attacked Capitol police officers. Well, that does when we talk about the term insurrectionist, that becomes a bit of a problem because we've been having this debate on, whether or not it was an insurrection. And we know that, they've been claiming that Donald Trump is an insurrectionist. And so therefore he is not eligible to run for president. And this could affect other people who may in the future want to run for office. So the idea that we've enshrined this into law is a bit of a problem. And it's always good that we read these bills so that we know what in the world our legislators are up to. Because if we don't read the bills, then how will we know if we think they are doing a good job, right? How do we know if their yes vote should have been a yes or their no vote should have been a no? And this goes whether you're talking at the local level, so your local city council, or whether you're talking about your state level, so your state house and senate representatives. Also your governor as well, who signs bills when they get to his or her desk, and then of course, obvious Congress. Whether or not the House of Representatives or the Senate and Congress, the bills there are bills that you agree with or don't agree with, right? Doesn't matter. You should know. And it doesn't really matter what position that you take. You should always be familiar with it. So that's kind of where the title of the show this morning comes from, and we're going to dive into a bill. But first, I just want to kind of point out a few things that you're going to be seeing some new stuff here on the Liberty Dad podcast because I am working hard to bring you a show that just is getting better and better and better. So some of the things that I'm working on is I'm adjusting some subscriptions that I have, so that I can kind of put myself out to more places. So I will be for anybody that may be watching that would prefer to listen to the show. Well, you're in luck. I will be starting this week. I will be putting out the podcast in audio only format, so you'll be able to find it like on your favorite apps, Spotify, what have you, iTunes, so on and so forth. So look forward to that. With any luck, I'll actually have it done today. I've already got it set up. I just got to get everything, all the technical stuff behind the scenes. Get the audio and then put it up and kind of get that set up. So it might take me a day or two to kind of get a good flow going. But this week, you will start to have there will be audio versions. Also, I'm going to be updating the appearance. So if you're listening, this won't matter to you, but if you're watching the show, I've been looking at some other podcasts and kind of seeing what they do. And I'm not going to try to steal anybody's stuff, anybody's vibe or anything like that. But I'm like, all right, I think I can make some upgrades to the appearance to kind of make it just a little bit more visually appealing. I don't think that I'm quite enough to make it fully appealing visually, but I'm doing my best. But at any rate, so I'm gonna be changing some things with the appearance a little bit and just trying to set that up. I'm also going to have set up some ways that you can support the show because all of this takes time, it takes money, so on and so forth. So I guess what that means is I'm kind of gonna be updating myself to grifter status. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But here's the thing. This show, I will always have a show for you to watch for free. So the idea here isn't that all of a sudden the show that you enjoy at 7 a.m. or 7:15 for the Mondays of the brand new year that I'm a little running behind on. But it's not going to mean that you won't be able to watch the show or listen to the show. No, that'll still be available to you. But again, I'm trying to improve things and make things better. So I'll offer some things to people that are willing to, and able to support the show. And then, and those will go toward all these different things. So same great show, new stuff, basically end of it. Another thing I want to do is do promos. I'm going to start selectively promoting things that I like. And this will go whether or not I will let you know, but whether or not I'm getting any kind of kickback from it. In many cases, I won't. But any case that I do, I will let you know. So you're gonna know like this is an instance where DL is getting something from promoting this, and this is an instance where he is not. And it's just basically things that I think you should know about that may be of value to you. So therefore, um, it's just my way of promoting good things. And some of them will be libertarian stuff, some of them will not. I'm also getting some affiliate marketing, and I'm going to try my best to put together some of my own funny clips. Now that may bomb. That may get me, just canceled totally. I don't know. My comedy isn't so great, but we're just some things, just some interesting stuff, rather than just going out and pulling news clips, kind of create some of my own content that you can kind of laugh at, whether I wanted you to laugh at it or not. So we're going to be doing that. So lots of cool stuff coming up. And in fact, speaking of promos, I want to promo something today, and this is the first promotion of something else on the show. And this is a friend of mine. His name is Jack Lloyd. You may or may not know him if you are involved in the libertarian circles. Him and his wife, Pho, I like to call it Fo, which I know is not the correct pronunciation, but they do a lot of media, and they're building some of their own stuff. He has books, he has comic books, and they're actually both together, putting together a book for children. So let's play a clip real quick, and then I'll tell you a little bit about that.
Welcome to the Unschooled Adventures of Jack and Pho, where children are free to learn. This book is an introduction to the unschooled world as Jack and Pho discover that learning and play are not mutually exclusive. This first Unschooled Adventures title is a 102-page, full-color illustrated book that will inspire you and your loved ones to pursue their curiosities without end. The content is geared toward children aged 9 to 13, but can be enjoyed by anyone wanting to see what an unschooled environment could be like. This first book lays down character and plot basics and sets the reader up for an ever-expanding story meant to help readers understand the philosophy and virtues of an unschooled life. Join in today and get some special perks for you and your family as we kick off the Unschooled Adventures journey. See you soon!
All right, folks. So that's what's going on. My friend Jack here, and I'm going to pull up. I will have the link so that you can check it out. I will have the link in the show notes, in just right after the show. But what they're doing is they're putting together a book, and they've got an indie. Is it an Indigo? Yeah, I think that's what it is. Indigo. So they have an Indigo. Indiegogo, I'm sorry, Indiegogo project where you can go check it out. And so I just encourage you. I like some of Jack's stuff that I have personally. Let's bring that bigger up. So that I like some of Jack's stuff that I have personally checked out. So I've read some of his books. And I've watched a lot of the videos that him and his wife have put together. So I'm kind of actually looking forward to this. So scroll down here a little bit. I'm not going to read the whole thing. The Unschooled Adventures of Jack and Foe is a 102-page book, geared toward 9 to 13 demographic. Younger children may enjoy it as well with reading help. So my son is almost 5. I will be looking to get a copy of this book, and we will read it to him as well. Let's see here. First, this is the first book in an ongoing, ever expanding series and is meant to be an introduction to the main characters and scene setting of the story. So, this is just like this introductory book, and they're going to talk about their unschooled adventures. Now, what are the unschooled adventures like? Well, honestly, I have no idea. This is brand new to me, but this is a project here on Indiegogo, the Unschooled Adventures of Jack and Foe. So, I encourage you, if you want to be a part of this, to go on there, become a backer, and get you a copy of the book. If you have children, read it to your children, so that we can spread the message of liberty. And I think this is important because when we as a community start supporting each other, then we can grow the concepts of liberty. And part of that means we're going to have to go out and do things. So if I am not a children's book author in any stretch. I mean, I've never tried it, but I don't think I am at this moment. And I'm definitely not doing anything. So there's no reason for me, to worry about that. But I can support others who are, and then I can get that book for my son, and I can read and say, hey, here's a fun book that will teach him about things that I know that I value. But it can be anything, right? Like any business that somebody's doing, help support them, whether it's financially or just promoting them. So I'll be looking forward to getting a copy of this book and reading it to my own son. I hope you do too. Please check the show notes for a link, and just let them know, hey, I'm supporting you, and good job, and look forward to it. All right. So let's get back. We wanted to do a bill review today. So
But I know I'll be a law someday. At least I hope and pray that I will. But today I am still just a bill.
all right. That's my little intro there for my bill review. So I'm going to review a bill that's coming out of Florida. And where did I see this from? Well, I saw this from Representative Anna Escamani. I think it's Escamani. And I actually commented on her on Twitter. So she actually responded back to me. So that was kind of cool. So let's see what this comment is. We've got here. So it says, looks like a Florida version of this bill has been filed. She has a link. I'll pull it up in just a moment. Just another attempt to demonize, target, and isolate trans people. Maybe we focus on property insurance instead. Bill link. And then, so this is the bill. It's HB 1027. See, that's not coming up very well. So let's do this. How about we do that? All right. So HB 1027, single sex student organizations. And so this is a bill by Gonzalez Pittman. And the description here is creates single sex student organizations Bill of Rights, provides requirements for institutions of higher education and single sex student organizations, providing penalties. Effective date would be July 1st, 2024. It was filed on December 27th. So that's just what we have there for the time being. All right, so what do we got here? So let's jump on over to a description of this. So where did I find this? So this not I looked it up, and there wasn't a lot of information to be had about, like, why this bill is needed, or like maybe some of the like there's not been a lot of chatter about it, so that's kind of interesting. But I'm going to talk about it anyway. So let's pull that up real quick. All right. So this article here says Florida House Republicans bill would create a Bill of Rights for members of single sex student organizations at colleges and universities. And this was posted January 2nd. Um, so it doesn't really give you much more description than what I read. It says the measure defines single sex student organizations as social fraternities or sororities, quote, or an organization whose membership has been historically single sex and whose active membership consists primarily of students or alumni of an institution of higher education, end quote. So, in part, the bill would prevent schools from taking adverse actions against organizations and students based on the organizations being single sex or students being members of the groups. That would include preventing such things as expulsions, suspensions, or denial of on campus housing. Also, for example, the bill says it is the intent to ensure that students who are members of a sex student organization, I feel like this is a tongue twister, are treated without bias in comparison to students at an institution of higher education who are not members of single sex student organizations. So there's not really a lot here to go with. Now the link that Representative Escamani provided is an old link, interestingly enough. So that's what really kind of caught my attention. So let's bring that up real quick here. So we have that. Let me zoom this in a little so that it's a little bit more legible for those who are watching. Title: In altered bill, House Republicans would bar penalties to single gender clubs. This is dated December 11th, 2017. Now we're not going to read the whole thing. It's not very long, but it's also not very instructive as to what is exactly going on. It says some colleges and universities would be barred from penalizing single sex student organizations under a measure included in amended legislation to reauthorize the Higher Education Act that was proposed by Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives. So the first thing that we have here, the first problem, like we're still dealing with education at the legislative level. And that generally spells trouble, right? Because everybody wants the government to be as unbiased and fair as possible, and we're always finding a way where it's not, which is a good reason to kind of get them out in the first place. I'm like, you know what? Since the government can't accomplish this, because there's always somebody that gets left out, or there's always somebody that is in some way negatively impacted by a bill. So the idea that government can always treat things fairly is kind of silly, especially when we're talking about things where it's kind of subjective, right? We're not talking about a crime where we say like, "Hey, you hit this other person and they were no threat to you, so therefore you were wrong." That would be an instance where the government could protect people, or at least provide some sort of some they can provide some sort of recourse for the other person. They're not really protecting you per se, but they are offering some level of protection, in a sense, even if it's after the fact. And we can do it on some sort of objective standard. Like you hit this person, you were not supposed to hit this person because you were not under threat. Right. So when you start getting into education and you start talking about like, okay, you've got this group that springs up, and then what should the organization do about it and why should they do something about it. That's when it starts getting very, very murky, and I think it's probably a good idea for us to actually say, you know what, let's pull out rather than get more entrenched in. So the new proposal would bar institutions that have policies allowing single sex social organizations for students from requiring those groups to admit as a member an individual who does not meet the organization's criteria for single sex status. So I think that is the core of what's going on here. This is why the bill is deemed anti-trans, because it's basically saying, okay, in the law, we are going to say that a single sex organization, social organization, which is basically frats and sororities. Okay, that's primarily what they're talking about, but there are others. I mean, this is the big one, right? But there are other ones. Um, and so they are offering protections that say, like, look, if your frat doesn't allow a transgender student, then we may want to punish you. And so the bill says, nope, you can't punish them if they do that, which also means you can't punish members who are part of it. So maybe somebody, maybe there's a leader who made that final decision or voted in a particular way or whatever, right? This bill would presumably prevent all of that by just saying like, look, we're going to give you a bill of rights. Bill of Rights sounds nice, right? It really does. The idea of a bill like, oh, and we got a Bill of Rights for everything. If you literally look it up, you're gonna find that there's like a Bill of Rights for like airlines. You got like I've seen local Bill of Rights for things. Like there's just like it's just becoming a very popular thing to create this Bill of Rights. And what that really means is we're going to favor one particular group over another. And sometimes it's a nice, cute gimmick, and that's fine. Other times, I don't know that it's actually so valuable, and I think it may actually be, in some ways, maybe a negative. And in this case, I'm kind of leaning toward it's a negative. So let's take a look. We're not going to read through the whole bill. It's about 8 pages or so. Let me pull that bill up real quickly here. Apologize for being so unorganized today. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I just not organized today and I need to just kind of get it together. So let's see here. Let's pull this bill up. All right. So here's the bill. And clicking the wrong thing here. All right. So very beginning, it tells you, it defines kind of what the bill is going to do. It's an act related to single sex student organizations, providing legislative intent, definitions, the rights of members of single sex student organizations and single sex student organizations. Um, Providing the rights of members and the organizations themselves, providing construction penalties, requiring the state board of education and the board of governors to adopt rules and regulations, um, and then it has an effective date. So it goes through here and they define things. I didn't really see any issues with their definitions. So they're like, hey, an adverse action here means any of the following, actions by an institution of higher education, administrative staff, so on and so forth. So expulsion, suspension, probation, censure, condemnation, formal reprimand, issuing an oral or written warning regarding an action, denying participation in the education program, withholding in whole or in part any financial assistance, denying the opportunity to apply for financial institution assistance, denying or restricting access to on campus housing, denying us any certificate, endorsement, or letter of recommendation, denying participation or a leadership position in any other student organization, withdrawing official recognition of such organization, interjecting criteria, and just kind of goes. Well, I guess I was almost done with it. Interjecting criteria into the membership practices of such organization that conflicts with protections afforded under Title IX, and then it goes to kind of give him some more of that. So we'll skip down here. So rights of the single sex organization and their members. So let's see what they're saying. Basically, a student can form, join, and if selected for membership, participate in a student organization, including a single sex student organization, regardless of whether such organization is officially recognized by an institution of higher education. All right, look, here's the thing. Let's skip. I mean, we should you should read the bill, but I'm not going to read the whole thing on air like that. Kind of be boring. But we wanted to kind of get through and just kind of get a sense of what this bill is doing. So it seems like what the bill is doing is saying, like, look, let's say I go to college and I decide that I want to create a fraternity of some sort, and the fraternity is going to be only men who are libertarians. Okay, so it's going to be called the Libertarian Men's Club. And this bill would say, DL, you have the absolute right to do that. Now, I have the right to do that. The question is, does the university have the right to, in some way, interfere with that? And I'm going to argue that they should have that right to interfere. They should say, look, on our campus, we don't think that you should have this organization, and we will punish you if you are a part of this organization. Okay. Now, I don't think this is an anti-trans bill. I think that's kind of overstated. Like, I don't think the word trans appears in the bill anywhere. I read through it and I didn't see it. Maybe I missed it, but I don't think it has any. And so this is one of those bills where it's not explicitly attacking trans folk, nor does it appear to be indirectly attacking trans folk. It just simply says, look, if you want to create this organization, you should be allowed to. And I think as a general rule of thumb, government should not, no, not even a general, it is explicit. I think government should not impede people from creating organizations that they want. And those organizations can have whatever criteria they want to define the membership. So it doesn't matter. Okay. So again, if I want to create a libertarian men's group, the government should not be able to stop me. Right. And I don't really need a bill. I already have a Bill of Rights for that. So I don't need it. But when it comes to a college campus, well, now I'm engaging when I go to a college, I am engaging in a transaction, right? I'm I'm getting together contractually with them. I'm going to say, I'm going to pay you money, you give me an education. And then at the same time, they're going to say, along with that education, here are the criteria for being involved with our organization. You're going to get this, you're going to get this, you're going to get this, right? You're going to get this level of education. Um, you're going to get this certificate, you're going to get these recommendations, whatever. They're going to provide all of those things. But they can also say, as part of our organization, you cannot do these things. Otherwise, you will be voiding the contract. So I actually disagree with the bill, but not for the same reason that opponents do. So Representative Escamani believes that it is an anti-trans bill, effectively meant to enshrine the idea that male and female clubs can decide membership and exclude trans members and say, well, technically, you're not a real man or you're not a real woman, so therefore you can't be part of our club. That's that's what their perspective is. I don't really care about that because, again, if you want to create an organization and have membership criteria, I'm okay with that. And that includes the universities and the colleges. Like that includes them too, because I'm paying them money to be part of their organization and to get an education and to get a degree, right? Like that's what's happening. And the same applies for trans folk, right? Like if trans folk said, look, we're going to create a trans club on campus, well, the government shouldn't be able to stop them, but the school can. So let me give you let's take it out of the realm of trans and non-trans folk, and then let's put it in something else that's a little bit more familiar and it's kind of already probably been settled in the minds of people. So imagine you go to a Christian university. The Christian university might say, well, and some of them do, as part of being a member here, you cannot you cannot in the dorms you cannot have women in the dorms with men and men with women in their dorms, right? Like they you have to stay out because we don't like we disagree with non-marital sex, like premarital sex, right? So they might say like, look, we want to keep the males and females separated because we're a Christian college and we're holding these Christian values and we want our students to hold those Christian values as well. So they might have those criteria and say like, look, if you get busted, like, look, if you get somebody pregnant, they might, and I don't know if there's any that have this strict of a rule, but if you get somebody pregnant, you can no longer be a student. Like that would be part of their potentially part of their criteria. They could also say, if you decide that you're an atheist midway, well, that's fine. You don't have to necessarily be Christian, but you can't create an atheist organization on our campus because we are a Christian school, right? So that would make sense because again, you would be entering into a contract with the school, the college, the university, and you would be agreeing to their terms. You would be paying them money. They would be giving you something in return. And part of what they're giving you is a list of criteria for you to be a part of their organization. So the idea that Florida would pass a bill that says, okay, well, the colleges and the universities, you can totally have a, you can create a contract with students, but here's the limit on that contract, and the limit is you can't limit other groups who want to create a group within, like a subgroup within your group. You can't limit them. Right. So you see how this works. You see why this is a problem. And this is why I opposed the bill. But again, I don't think it's an anti trans bill. And I've seen several, when I was doing my research this morning, I saw several references to how it's anti trans, but nobody really was saying exactly how it's anti trans. I think that's just becoming like a buzzword now. And it's very unfortunate because there could very well be some actual anti-trans things that do need to be addressed as anti-trans, right? And maybe they're a good thing, maybe they're not. But we can't have that conversation if we're busy throwing out, flippantly throwing out words like anti-trans for something that may just be saying like, look, these groups that have always existed, they can always exist, and it's okay. And the way that we solve this issue, right, for fraternities and sororities and other groups, the way that you solve this is you get the government out and then you allow people to work it out on their own. Students can students already look up and say, what kind of benefits and perks are there for going to college A versus college B? And sometimes students will say like, I really want to go to college A because they have this really great thing. They focus on this that I really like. In college B, they focus on something else, right? and that's okay, right? And that's how it should work, and including with the groups. So, simple bill. How many pages was that bill? Let's see. The bill was 6 pages, so it wasn't really it wasn't terribly long. So I can always appreciate a bill that we can read over a cup of coffee. But that doesn't mean that I think that the bill is necessary. So, in my opinion, I think that this bill needs to be shot down. It needs to be shot down because what we need to do is start removing government from our institutions and allowing the free market to do its thing. The free market is a wonderful thing and it can accomplish a great deal of stuff. And students can decide whether they want to go to a college that has any kind of limitations on their social clubs. And we can put that right up there with all the other things that college students or would be college students use in determining which college they want to attend. They can go to a college based on the quality of the education, the sports that they have, social clubs all of those things should factor in for students who want to attend a college. When I when I support an organization, I should be I should be supporting it on the entirety of that organization, and I should not be limited. Because if the government gets involved, then they're simply going to limit that, right? Like there's no like if the government says in Florida, if they say, "Hey, all universities have to allow single sex organizations, basically fraternities, sororities, and the like." Um, they have to allow them and they can't impede them and they can't punish people for making decisions that they don't particularly care for. Then what that means is that's off the table for every student to use as a criteria in Florida. And so that's the government deciding for you what is best. That is not the role of government, or it should not be the role of government. The role of government should be that when you have been wronged, the government is there to deal with that, right? Like if somebody punches me in the face because I'm walking down the street, they just come up and punch me in the face, and then that's when the government has a role to play, right? They can play and say, "Hey, you assaulted this person. Now you owe them money for their hospital bill, what have you, right?" Like that's the role of government to deal with things that are actual crimes, not to deal with the interactions that we need to work out as a society, and we can. So that's my episode for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Um, let me know what you think in the comments. Be sure to catch me every Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern, for an informed discussion on politics and culture. And then again on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. with my co host, Susan Hogarth, where we're going to discuss LP happenings. We look across the vast tyranny of this United States, tyranny like I just talked about, where the government's getting its fingers in every little thing they can. And we're going to let you know what the LP is doing, the Libertarian Party, whether that's at the state level or the local level, like, say, the county or cities. So we're going to be bringing that information to you. Make sure you are subscribed to my YouTube channel or my Rumble channel, whichever one you like, or both. You can go to youtube.libertydad.com or rumble.libertydad.com. Make sure to throw down a comment. Let me know how I'm doing. Anything that you can tell me to improve this channel would be great, right? I'm all ears. Doesn't mean I'll do it, but I'll read it. I'll listen to it. I'll hear you, and I do read the comments, and I try to comment on them if I can. Lastly, remember, if you're a champion of liberty, your business is people, and your product is liberty. I want you to have a great week. Catch you next time on time. But for now, I'm out.